All right, so we are at the top of the time when we are set to start, so we will go ahead and get going. Now, what we will do is be talking all about passion. So that's what this is about. And so, what I'd love for you to do is focus today's discussion because if we think about the theme of passion in a broad sense, it can start to feel a little overwhelming. So, what we want to do is pick a particular area within our life to focus on and use that to guide the conversation today. So, I'm a confidence coach. I work with individuals and helping them create more confidence in their career. And so, a lot of times for them, this idea of passion is focused on career. So, it's either how do I find more passion in my current job, my current role, or it's how do I create more passion for my career path overall? So, those are two ideas that you could use for that specific area to focus on. Another option could be about your hobbies. If you want more passion related to hobbies, or you want to find some hobbies that you're interested in. So, we can do that. We can use that as the focus as well. So, go ahead, pick a particular area of life, and if you could actually write it on the top of a page and keep that piece of paper with you throughout the rest of this time together, because we will be referencing it as we go through this webinar. Okay, so now you have that particular area of focus in mind. What we're going to do now is we're going to start with a question. And so that question for you is, when you think about the phrase, find your passion, what comes to mind? So I want you to take a moment and think about this. Feel free to put it in the question Q&A section to share it that way. But really, it's the phrase, find your passion. What comes to mind? Go ahead and take a moment to think about that. All right, so now you have that in mind. And a lot of times what I see with my clients is things come up like this idea of wanting to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. Or it's something like creating a sense of purpose, like you're supposed to have this thing you're supposed to do. Another thing that it might be is knowing what you want out of life. A last one is see what excites you, see what lights you up, or also to do what you're meant to do. So all of these different ideas often come together as a means when we're thinking about how to find your passion. And they all relate to this idea of searching, looking, trying to find something, figure out that thing that lights you up, that gives you fire. But what this implies is that it's out there in the world. Like you're supposed to go find it. Like somehow you're going to be able to discover this one thing that you're passionate about, that you're meant to do. What this also can imply is that there is a specific thing that you're supposed to do. Like there's this one thing in your life that you're meant to be passionate about, and if you can't find it, then you're really in trouble. Or let's say that you do find it, but you suck at it. Or you do it and you're pretty good at it, but something comes up in your life that makes it so that you're no longer able to pursue that thing. So what this does is this puts a lot of pressure on us. It requires us to find this thing, or even if you believe in multiple passions, it discovers you to have to go out there and find it. And what I find is this is not only difficult, tricky for us to do, but it puts a lot of pressure on us because it makes us have to go find this thing. It also makes it external, so we're at the whim of the universe and our ability to be able to find this thing and to know what it is when we find it. And it's not only adding pressure, but it's also not the most accurate because passion doesn't come from out there. So, what I find is a more helpful way for us to think about passion, and is what is going to be the foundation of this webinar today, is to switch this phrase. So, instead of saying how to find your passion, we want to change it and we want to think about how to create your passion. How to create your passion. So for those of you who just joined the webinar, we're talking right now about this idea of creating passion. And if there's just one thing that you can remember by the end of this webinar, if you leave with just one phrase, let it be that passion is something that you create as you're taking action, as you go. And what this does for us is it gives us back the power. It means we don't have to go find that one thing. Instead, we get to create it. And so by the end of this webinar, you will leave with a clear strategy for how you can create that passion in your own life. All right, so that is where we're headed today. I am so excited to be able to go on this journey with you. And what we can do to start with is we can think about where we fit in terms of this idea of passion. A lot of times people come and they're either in one of two camps. They're either somebody who feels like they have no passion, or they feel like they have so many passions, they don't know what to choose. They don't know what to move forward with. So if you could take a moment in that Q&A, just put which option it is for you, A or B. Which of those is it for you? I'll give you a second to go ahead and do that. All right, so we have some B's in there. Yeah, too many passions. Where do we focus? Another B, another B. Okay, yeah, so we're seeing a similar trend where people notice they have a lot of things they're interested in, but they're not sure where to start. They don't know where to focus. And so this process, yeah, I got some more coming in. Great, another B. Beautiful. So what this process will do is it will show us how we can help focus ourselves a little bit more in order to create more passion in our lives related to a particular area. So we don't just feel like we're going all over the place, but we have some direction to move forward. So in order for us to get there today, we're going to cover a couple different things, and it's truly a value-packed webinar. We'll start with talking about defining what passion is. We did that a little bit, but let's go a bit deeper. And we'll also discover where it comes from, because if we know where it comes from, then we can know how to impact it and influence it. From there, we will be diving into a process for creating more passion. What we can do is when we have a process, we can figure out where we're at in the process and begin taking action to further ourselves going forward. Because it isn't helpful when we feel like we have no idea how to move forward. That just keeps us stuck. When we systematize and we process, we have direction and we can make moves. So that is what we'll be talking about next. And then we're going to end talking about your questions. So any questions you have, of course, feel free to answer throughout the webinar. Again, that is what the Q&A box is for, and this is meant to be interactive. And also, I can appreciate sometimes questions don't come up until the end. And so I've reserved some time at the end to make sure we can get your questions answered. So we are getting those addressed, and you can feel like you have some clarity about how to create more passion in your life with that particular area of focus that you came to this webinar thinking about. I also have a special offer for you on the webinar. It will be a special gift. It's a free mini session with me where we can dive into this specific to you. If that's something you're interested in, you'll want to make sure to hang tight until the end of the webinar because I also have a special bonus if you're signing up for that free session before the end of today's call. All right, so let's dive in. It can help for you to have a little bit of an idea of where this information is coming from. So I'll introduce myself. I'm your facilitator. My name is Lisa. I have a master's in industrial organizational psychology, which is like a fancy way of saying psychology applied to the workplace. So you get the workplace dynamics along with the mindset and the psych side. I have a background training and coaching in leadership development in different training design companies and different communication companies. And I'm also a certified life coach through the Life Coach School. So I've drawn upon that experience and my personal experience in order to create this webinar for you. And really, I'm all about putting as much value in here as possible because I believe that that is how you can start to see what the next steps are for you. And so that's what this webinar is about. Okay, let's get moving. So we'll start with that definition of what passion is. So what is passion? So I want you to think about this question for a second here. And in the Q&A, put your answer. What comes to mind? What is passion? How would you define it? What is passion? And this is really getting at your definition of it, your essence of what it means to have passion and what passion is. All right. Some responses coming in. So, passion is something that brings you joy and purpose. Yeah, Kelly, that's great. It does often do that. And then Maria, something that inspires you. Yeah, so we have some different answers coming in here. And so, a lot of this that we're noticing are these feeling words, this joy, this inspiration. One is mentioning this idea of having a purpose that creates that passion. And so, what we see as we think about this is that when we're thinking about passion, it's this feeling. It's this feeling, if we were to solidify it, which brings us to the next question, which is, how does passion feel? So in chat, would love for you to include, for you, what does passion feel like? So in that Q&A box, also just think about it. Think about in your body physically, when you feel passion, what are you noticing? How does that show up for you? I know for me, it's often like this fieriness, this warmth. Oh, great. Another response about what passion is. Sarah, motivation to help others. What you feel happy about when you wake up. Yeah, so there we go again. It's that feeling, and that's getting again at that what it can feel like. There's a happiness to it. You can do it forever and not get tired. You can lose yourself in the process. All of these are great representations of what passion is. Energy in the body. Yes, so passion is an energy, and that relates to this idea of what it can feel like and what it is. So if we know that passion is this feeling, this energy in the body, as Maria has put it, then the next question becomes, okay, what is a feeling? What is a feeling? And there's a couple different ways we can approach this question. And there's a lot of research on this, so we don't need to go down to the nitty gritty level of exactly what this process looks like. But I do think it can help for us to do a high level look into how we get feelings, because I think that can help us to know how to then create that feeling for ourselves. And when we know how to create the feeling of passion, then what we're able to do is put it in our life and also focus in. So for those of you who felt like you have so many passions, you don't know where to focus, this can help you really to see what it is that passion is, and then you can use that to help you decide how to move forward next. Okay, so what is a feeling then? Well, let's break this down. Our bodies take in information. These are the senses. If you think about the five senses, you have sight, you have smell, you have the things that you are touching, you have different information coming at you, things people are telling you. And it's also things within your own head. So past programming, past stories you have about whatever situation you're in. All of that is coming together as these inputs that are coming into your body. And then what you have is you have a somatic response, which is like your physical side, your body, your automatic, your unconscious. And you have a cognitive appraisal, which is like your thought coming together, and those create the feeling. Now, we don't need to dive into the specifics here. It's not about getting to the nitty gritty, but what it is about is seeing that it's this process where you're taking in information, you have a thought about that information, and you have a physical response about it. And together, those create your feeling. So then what do we do to influence our feeling so that we can control it? Because that's our goal here, right? We want more passion and we want more focus to that passion. So what can we do to influence our feelings to create more of that passion so that we can control it and be in charge instead of feeling like we have to go and search for it? All right, so this model shows us there's a couple different places we could influence. Now we could do the sensory, which means that we think about certain music that creates passion in us, or certain smells, like if we light a candle, creates this passionate aroma, their aroma that makes us feel passion. So those are some ways, but that's pretty indirect. Another option can be the physical response, but a lot of times this is unconscious and it's automatic. it's that primitive part of your brain that responds instantly. So if you think about the way we evolved, the somatic response is an older aspect of our brain, and it's that instinctual response that's coming for you. So it can be a little bit difficult to influence from that place. And so that leaves us with this cognitive place, and that is really where we focus now, because what this cognitive appraisal is how you interpret the energy that's in your body, and what you make that interpretation mean will determine the feeling you get. So an example of this is when you have excitement and when you have anxiety, it's the same emotion. And when I say emotion, I mean it's the same energy that's coming in your body. But how you interpret that energy, so the way your brain labels that energy, determines whether certain chemicals are released versus others. And the chemicals that are released in the way that you're thinking about it make it either anxiety or excitement. So the actual chemicals that are being released in your body are dependent on how you label that energy, which means the way you label the situations that you're in are what determine how you feel. Put another way, the way you think determines how you feel, determines the actual physical sensations, the chemicals, and the way that is coming together. So what we want to do then is we want to think about how we can use this to create passion. And what I'd invite for you is, a lot of you said option B earlier, which was that idea that you have so many passions, you're not sure where to focus. And so I have a question that I'd love for you to answer, and it's going to help us see this idea come to life a little bit more. All right, so what is something you've been passionate about? So you can put this in the Q&A, but don't feel obligated to. You're also welcome to just keep that in mind. So what is something that you've been passionate about? This doesn't have to relate to the specific area that you wrote down earlier on this webinar. It could just be something that pops up right now, but just think of something that you do feel passionate about. And with that in mind, why are you passionate about it? So go ahead and please, in the Q&A, answer why you are passionate about it. What is the thought that's creating that feeling of passion? What thought, why are you passionate about it? I'll give you a moment to go ahead and write that down and to put it in the chat there. I know for me, it's often thoughts like, this is what I'm meant to do, or this matters. I see this as important. This is significant. I see value in this. So those are all often different ways we can think about this. Okay, so with that in mind, this brings us to the second part, which, oh yeah, so we have some thoughts in here. So one is, I do it well. Yes. So that thought creates this feeling of passion. And we're going to dive into this idea of doing actually coming up right now. And this gets at this idea of the process for creating passion. So when we started this webinar, we talked about the importance of process as a means to know how to systemize something and how to move forward with it. So what we're doing now is we're identifying what this process is so we can create more passion. All right, and so Sarah's sharing, so passion is about helping people like coworkers and the public through work, and then also the importance of trying to find a job where you can do that. Yes, so again, it's coming down to this idea of wanting to help people. That's the thought that's leading to the passion, and now it sounds like it's looking for a way to make that a part of your life and a part of your job. Okay, so now let's talk about the particular process that you go through in order to do this. So if you have an idea of something that you currently feel passionate about, but you didn't used to feel passionate about, I want you to keep that in mind right now as I go through this process, because if you have an example in your head, it can help it to come to life more. So think about something that you now feel passionate about, but in the past didn't feel passionate about. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to share this process with you. So often what happens with passion is we don't just start with this roaring fire, this roaring passion. It often begins as curiosity, this feeling of curiousness. And then if we decide, this is interesting. I'm curious about this. I wonder what this is all about. We lean into that curiosity and we take some actions. We try things out. And then what that does is it creates this feeling of capability, which is what was in the chat earlier about this idea that often with passion, it's often something you feel you can do it well, or you'll find a way to do it well. And so with this curiosity, you're leaning in, you're trying things out, and with that, you create a capability. This feeling, I'm good at this, I can do this, I know what's up. Now, a lot of times this is where we stay, especially if you've ever been in a job where you just feel like it's dead end, you don't know where it's going, and you don't like what you're doing. A lot of times this is where you're at, is you're at this place of capability. You're good at what you do, but that's pretty much it. You don't have any enjoyment. So what we can do is we want to take this capability, and for a lot of us, we want to find a way to make it enjoyable. And so what that means is we're leaning in, trying things out, and we're asking ourselves questions. Do I like this? Am I good at this? And if I'm good at it, do I want to push forward? Do I want to keep building this skill? If I don't like it, how can I find enjoyment in it? How can I find a way to see why this is a valuable task? So that's what that third stage is. It's this idea of enjoyment. So we want to take ourselves from capable to enjoy. Now, if we try to do this on every single thing that we're experiencing, we're going to overwhelm ourselves, because then we're just always working to try to create this enjoyment. So there's going to be some tasks that you're capable at that you don't enjoy, and then you can decide if it's worth your mental energy to find a way to enjoy it. Because sometimes it is, if it's a day-to-day task that you're always going to be doing, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not worth it. And then you can just be content knowing you're good at this, and you don't have to feel enjoyment unless you want to take it there. So with enjoyment, a lot of times the thoughts that come with this are things like, oh, I love this. This is fun. I enjoy this. This is great. This is pleasurable. I'm feeling good about this. You have those types of thoughts, but it's not usually a passion. A lot of us have hobbies that are at this area. If you like cooking, or you're an animal enthusiast, you enjoy the animals, you think about them in that way, that could be enjoyment. If we want to take this, though, to the next step, which is to passion, we then lean in more and we think things like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to focus on. This is how I want to spend my time. This is important. This is significant. This is helping people. I want to help people. And you create that passion that way. So this is the process for creating passion. Knowing this process will help you to see where you're at with your current passion and your current interests in the process, so you can decide where you want to go. Now, at the beginning of this webinar, a lot of you mentioned that you feel you have a lot of passions, which would indicate that a lot of you are down here in this passion spot, and you're feeling like you're not maybe sure where to focus next. So if that's you, what this comes down to is realizing that passion is that feeling coming from the choice. If you're feeling overwhelmed, like you don't know which area to focus on because you have so many things you're passionate about, you can decide if all of those things are things you want to stay passionate about, or if there's some that you want to take back to enjoy. Because the goal here isn't that we feel passionate about everything. It's that we're being intentional with how we're feeling and the way we're leading our life. So what the next question is related to this is, where do you think action fits with this approach? Well, it comes up everywhere. It's throughout the whole process. You're leaning in, you're taking action, and you're also making decisions. So you feel curious, you try to decide, is this interesting? Like for me, an example was when I was volunteering at the Barking Lot, which is a dog shelter. So I've always been curious about animals. So as I leaned into that, I realized, you know what? I wonder if there's a way I can help animals more. That's something that intrigues me. So I leaned in and I found a dog shelter. And so I reached out and I started volunteering there. First, I wasn't very good, and it wasn't always the most fun to scoop the poop yard. But what I realized is I was building a capability. I was getting good at it. And as I was doing that, I was creating more of that feeling of capable. As I felt more and more capable, I started wondering, how could this be helpful? And as I was scooping the play yard, which literally means like you scoop poop, massive mounds of poop. We don't need to go into details, but you're scooping the poop. And I'm thinking, you know what? This is a way for me to actually get to meet all of the dogs. Because when you're volunteering at a dog shelter, it's hard for you to get a lot of face time with the dogs because they're all in their little kennels. So this was an incredible opportunity for me to actually meet the dogs that I was there to help. So what used to just be something I was capable of, scooping the play yard, became something I started to enjoy. So as I started to enjoy it, I started to see how much this matters. And I came to this point where I had to decide, do I want to continue to enjoy this, or do I want to take it all the way down to passion? Do I want to make this the thing that I feel passionate about? And there can be multiple things that you feel passionate about. And so I'm not saying like it's the one and only, but I'm saying, is this something that I want to think this is important, this is significant, this is me helping? I decided yes for a while. And so what I did was I was volunteering, I was helping, I was feeling the passion. And then there came this point where I needed to manage my time. I needed to make a choice because the time I was spending at the Barking Lot is time that I couldn't spend coaching, leading workshops, leading webinars like this. So I made the active choice to go and create enjoyment and continue to enjoy that process, but not be flow-blown passionate to the point where I was prioritizing the Barking Lot above all else. Instead, I chose to prioritize the coaching and helping people that way. So I hope this gives you an idea of how this process can come to life for you and the way that you can think about it so that you can see where your passion is, where you want to focus, and how you can help to continue to narrow your focus with what you want to be passionate about. And if you have any questions about this process, don't hesitate to put it in the Q&A. If I can't get there right away, we will get there at the end. Okay. So now we see what the process is. What we want to do then is think about how we can apply this to our own lives. And so now we're going to do a quick activity that will allow you to see how this process is showing up for you. So you have that piece of paper in front of you, and for those of you who are here right at the top of the time, you wrote down a specific area of focus to think about. And so if you don't have that yet, I'd invite you on the top of that paper to write down a particular area of your life where you want to create more passion, or at least have more clarity around where you're at with your passion. An example might be your career path. It might be your current job. It might be with hobbies. But think about a specific area where you want to feel more passion. Okay, with that in mind, now just make a quadrant on that page there. So you're going to divide it into 4 sections. And in the bottom right, you're going to write passion. Now, in this box, I'd like for you to think about and write down the things you're currently passionate about related to that specific area of focus. And so these are things that are specifically already things that you feel the passion for. It's things that you already have that fire, that warmth, that melting, that thought, this is what I want to do with my life, or this is something that matters to me, this is a way to help. You already have that feeling of passion. And I want you to write those down. If nothing comes to mind, don't try to force it. I'll give you a few moments now to go ahead and do that. All right. All right. So now what I'd love for you to do is we're going to move to the next box. If you're still finishing up the passion one, just take a pause and we'll move together with the next box. So the next box is enjoyment. So here, I'd love for you to write down the things related to that area of focus that you enjoy that you didn't already write in the passion box. So if it's already in the passion spot, don't write it down. If nothing comes to mind, leave it blank. But think about the things you enjoy. And so, Maria, you had a great question in here about repeating the process of going from enjoyment to passion. That's really taking it from, oh, this is fun, I like this is interesting, this is something that's nice and enjoyable, to something that's a little bit stronger with more conviction. So it's something like, this really matters to me, I want to prioritize this is really important to my purpose. So knowing that you're switching the way you're thinking about it and you're leaning in even more and taking more action, that's how you're going from enjoyment to passion. So right now, when you're trying to identify something that you enjoy versus passion, use that lens for yourself. If it feels that way that passion feels to you, it goes in that box. If it's something you enjoy, that you really like, but isn't something you would hang your hat on or prioritize above pretty much anything else, then I'd put it in the enjoy box. All right, so I'll give you a couple moments now to go ahead and put things in the enjoy box. Okay. All right. So now we're moving on to the capable box. This is for specific tasks that you're good at, that you feel good at. It doesn't have to mean you're an expert at, but you develop some level of capability around. But you don't necessarily enjoy it. You don't have to hate it. You might just feel neutral about it, but it isn't something you'd go as far as to say, I enjoy this. So in the capable box, you're only putting things that you haven't already put in the enjoy or passion box. So I'll give you a couple moments to go ahead and fill that out there. And again, you don't have to have something in every box, just a way to map out where you're at now. Okay. Now, as you may have guessed, the last step we're going to do right now is this idea of curious. Think about things related to that area of focus that you're curious about. So for those of you who answered earlier, I don't have any passions. I don't know what I'm passionate about. Nothing comes to mind. This box is going to be really helpful for you. So if there's something related to that area of focus that intrigues you, you're interested about, maybe you haven't really done anything with it, but you have a spark of curiosity around, go ahead and put that in the curious box. All right. And again, if it's in the other boxes, don't write it again. These are just for new things related to that area of focus. Okay. All right, for those of you who are finishing up, I'd love for you to now take a look. So you've really zoomed in at the specific tasks or activities. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to zoom out. So if you think of like a Google map, you know how you can zoom way in? Now we're zooming way back out. And we're looking at if there's any specific themes coming up for you on that sheet. And if you could just go ahead, feel free to share what themes, if there's anything you're noticing that comes up for you as you look at what you wrote down. Feel free to share those in the Q&A. Even just if something surprised you, uh, something that reconfirms your current belief about passion, anything that comes to mind related to a theme you're uncovering with what you put down. And the reason that we do this is it helps us to see the map that we currently have about our passion. So what we really did just now is we took this process and we made it into real life. We put it into something that fits our own context. So one response we have in here is a curiosity is that all the technical skills were curious, whereas passion was more about the meaning that they found. And so this is a nice takeaway that you can get as you zoom out and look at your own. Are there particular skill sets that fit in these quadrants? It gives you some more insight into yourself and how you've been thinking about different tasks. All right, so now for those of you who felt like you had so many passions that you don't know what to do next, my guess is you probably have a lot in that passion box and that enjoy box. Now, what this means for you is you have a bunch of different options for how to move forward. And what can help is instead of to let that get overwhelming, is to think about it in terms of, okay, I have all these different options here. What is it that I want to move forward in more? Because there's no right or wrong answer. We started this webinar talking about how you don't have to go find your passion. You create it, which means that you get to decide which is the thing you want to pursue and which to drop. And there's no wrong answer. And just because you choose something today doesn't mean next month, a year from now, you don't decide to do something different. What this does is it gives you the power back. And it can take the overwhelm away because it puts you in the driver's seat making the decision. Great. All right, and so we have in here a great point, which is passion doesn't make a living. And I would argue that in a lot of ways that is true. Passion alone cannot make a living. You can't just have something you're passionate about and it create a living for you. Passion comes, if we look at this process again, as you're taking action, as you're leaning in and doing things, and you're building that capability along the way. So we have passion down here after capability because you need to have that capability to be able to lean in, truly create a skill set that makes you marketable in the workplace. So especially when you're living, we're talking about this in terms of your job, it helps to see it this way because it means that you can feel capable about something. It doesn't mean you're not going to get to passion. You can take yourself to passion. But if you're at that place where you just are feeling like you're building your capability and nothing really feels that great, know that you're on the right path. Because as you do it, as you get good at it, you start to enjoy it more and you get to passion. A lot of times our brains are looking to feel passionate about something right now. For that career, for instance, that's going to give us the passion. But it doesn't start that way. We develop the passion over time as we're making actions, building that capability, creating the enjoyment, getting good at things, and changing how we're thinking about it. So what this means is that if we're wanting to feel more passion, we figure out where we're at in this map and we decide what our next step could be. And it also means that our brain is going to be frustrated when we don't already feel passionate. When we're doing something like scooping the play yard or whatever the equivalent is for you, maybe it's bookkeeping, that you don't enjoy doing. What are you going to do when your brain tells you that it wants to stop? When it tells you that it doesn't enjoy this? When it tells you that maybe something's going wrong because you don't feel that passion? So right now, I'd invite for you to write down a plan for yourself. Because if you can plan this ahead of time, it helps you know how to move forward. It helps you know that when your brain puts up the resistance and thinks, but I don't like this, you can know that that's okay. Not liking it is meaning that you just need to go down that ladder to get to passion. It also can mean maybe it's just something you choose not to like. Maybe it's just something where you decide this is something that I'm good at and I'm going to stay here and that's okay. I'll focus my passion on something else while I continue to build this capability. Okay. So that gives us an idea of what you can do for yourself to create more passion. And so what I would ask you to do next then is think about, again, that one thing you could do to create more passion for yourself. What's one thing, based on what you identified in that quadrant, what is one thing you can do to lean in and create more passion for yourself? Because again, it is that process. You might be somewhere on this process and you can decide what you want to do to help yourself move forward. So to circle back, this is where we started. We started with this idea that we're trying to find our passion. And what we uncovered is that passion isn't out there. It's within us. It's a feeling that we create, and we create it as we're taking action, building our skill set, and creating enjoyment for ourselves. And so this brings us to the last part of the webinar, which is answering your questions and offering you a free session. So I would love for you, if you have any questions or comments that haven't been addressed yet, go ahead, put those in the Q&A, and we'll get to those. I want to make sure to hang out and answer them for you. As you're typing in those questions, though, let me share what this offer is that I have for you. This is a free mini session. It's a 45-minute session where you are on a virtual call with me individually. And the reason this can be so helpful is because when we get a lot of information, we can start to feel panicked. We can start to get overwhelmed. And that doesn't help us take action. I mean, how many of us have ever gotten information, read a book, been told these tactics to try, and then we just don't get to implementing it? Yeah, I've been there. And what that means is that the information isn't what creates the difference. It's applying the information. So you've identified a next step you can take, or you have some ideas potentially, and you're wanting to know how this can really work for your situation specifically, and your brain is stopping you. Or you just aren't wanting to stop with just what this one next action is. So you want some more clarity. That is, if that's you, this mini session is a great option for you. We'll get on for 45 minutes. We'll talk about where you're at now, where you're wanting to go, and what might be getting in the way of your ability to create that passion for yourself and give yourself more of that direction for your career and plan forward. So to sign up, you can go to the scheduling link, which you see on the screen now, www.lisaphilia.com/schedule. And you will be directed to a scheduling page where you can go ahead and pick a time. Now we have about 15 minutes left on this webinar. I'm going to hang out to answer your questions. And if you sign up for your mini session within the 15 minutes from this webinar, so between now and the 30 mark on the clock, you will also be given an audio recording about purpose, because a lot of times passion relates to purpose. It's the thought about our purpose that can create that passion for us, those thoughts. So it can help to have some clarity around purpose as well. And so if you sign up within the next 15 minutes, you'll also receive that audio in addition to the free mini session. All right, so let's dive in to answer your questions. I'm going to do that now, and I'll leave this scheduling link up here so that you can go ahead and sign up. Okay, so we have some questions. So you can make anything into passion. Love this question. And bottom line, yes, you honestly can. Because if we think about passion, it coming from that thoughts and your physical responses, you can decide to think something that leads to passion. But here's the caveat with that. Sometimes we just think this means, okay, I think when I feel passion, it's often because I'm thinking things like this matters to me. So if I just think this matters to me about anything, then I'll feel passion, right? That only works if you actually believe that thing. So if I'm scooping the play yard and I don't think that thought that this is important, but I don't believe that, I just try to think it and force it, it's not going to create passion. Now, it's similar to if you think about positive affirmations. A lot of times we think if we say a positive affirmation or we think positive, then we'll feel positive. That only works if you can create that belief in you. And so what this means is, can you make anything into passion? Yes, you can, but not usually instantly, unless you can instantly believe and truly sell yourself on that passion. So that's how this process can help. Now, again, the goal isn't to necessarily make everything something you feel passionate about, because sometimes passion, while it sounds nice, it doesn't necessarily lead us to the results that we want. Sometimes passion can lead us to be very open and free and curious and wondering. And that type of approach doesn't always get things done. And so you have to then ask, do I want to feel passionate about this? Is this something that's worth my time and my mental investment to try to create that feeling of passion or not? Thank you. Love that question. All right, we have another question in here. Okay, so my curiosities are all related to things I'm applying for: college advising or admission staff, technical writing. I don't have direct experience in them, but I have communication skills and organizations that they want. I enjoy teamwork on an important goal, so that's fine. My passion is for clear communication and helping people, so all of that seems to fit. Making progress in applying and actually getting interviews is beating me, though. Any advice? Yes, Sarah, I do have some advice. So it seems like for this, maybe it isn't about passion, because you have a lot of clarity around what you're passionate for. And it sounds like for you, it's building more of the skill set and the experience. And so what that gets down to also, and then also the interviews. So it gets down to different skill sets and also how to build that skill set. So for you, it's really focusing on, okay, so this is where I want to go. What skill sets do I need to build to get myself there? And ways to do that can be to do information interviews with people in those types of jobs so that you can see what they did to get where they're at. Modeling successful people is a great way for you to see ways in which to get to where you're wanting to go. And also then related to interviews, a lot of times that is communication and how we're presenting ourselves, as well as confidence. So if you think about this in terms of confidence and how to feel confident in an interview, and really can create that confidence ahead of time in the interview, that can really help. I do have a process specific to interviews. So Sarah, sign up for that mini session and I can share that with you. And I think that could be really helpful for you as you're making your next steps with your career. All right, thank you for that question. Okay, so another question here we have is, I don't have enough energy to do 2 passions, so how do I choose? Okay, so what this question implies is that you have limited energy. that you only have a certain amount of energy, and that feeling passion can be depleting. So what I would encourage you to think about is this idea of purpose. So if I were coaching you and working with you, I would ask you some more questions around the choice. What are the options? And what can help is to identify the reasons you like those options. So I'm just going to say A and B because I don't know what the choices are. So if I were you, I would ask myself, first, choice A, why do I feel passionate about this? What's my reason? And then do the same thing for choice B. Why do I feel passionate about this? What's my reason? So now you're identifying two different reasons. And then it's asking yourself, which of these reasons do I like better? Because there's no right or wrong answer. This is a little bit around decisions and how we make decisions too. It's knowing that there's no right or wrong answer. So thinking about your reason behind each of those options and choosing which reason you want to stand behind will help you figure out where to focus. What can often happen when we're making a choice is we think about what we lose if we don't choose a certain option. But I'd invite you instead to consider what you gain. If you think about the ideal for both of those options, choice A and choice B, and what both of those look like, and the reason you want both of those, it can give you some clarity about which of those futures is the one that you truly do want, and you can move forward with that. I would also invite you to consider whether there's a way where you can still have the other one as something you enjoy. A lot of times, I know for myself, I think that it's this or that, which just puts me in the state of franticness and confusion. But as soon as if I let myself think more in terms of the grays and how could I figure this out? How could I still get what I want out of A as well as then pursue B further? It allows me to make it less of a high stakes situation and see really where I want to go forward and be a little bit less rigid. That's something that I've noticed for myself when I'm making decisions. So I'm hoping that can help you as well. All right, so I don't see any other questions, but I will hang out until the end here. If anyone has any other questions or comments, or you want to dive in further about a particular topic, feel free to put that in the chat. I also am happy to answer other questions that are related to self-confidence or career direction, as both of those often do come up when we're talking about this idea of passion. All right, so I'll hang out here. Now, one thing that does often come up is this idea of purpose and passion. And so that audio that I'll be sending to those who sign up for the mini session does clarify this in detail. And what I'll start with is thinking about purpose also as something that doesn't have to be out there, but instead can be something that you are creating with your passion. So your purpose is often that thing that you see yourself doing and wanting to do, and that purpose leads to more passion. So think about things that you want to pursue in your life. A lot of times what I see people do is you think about either your retirement party, if the thing that you're wanting to create purpose for is your career, or you think about your tombstone, if you're thinking in more general terms about your life. And what are people saying about you? What is it, who's at that retirement party or at your tombstone? What types of things do you want them to remember about you? How do you want to make them feel? What have you been doing with them? That can help you to think from the far out future and then come back to the present and think, how can I get there? What steps do I need to take? All right, so another question that's common is, how do you create more confidence as you're working towards the passion? For example, building a business and believing that it will be successful. Okay, this is a great question because it gets at this idea of the fact that we can feel multiple things at once. So I'm going to pull up this chart again about passion. And so this question is about creating confidence as you're working towards the passion. So when you think about confidence, confidence is really this belief that you can figure it out. You've got this, you can do it, you're strong, you're capable, you're willing, you're able. So how that ends up showing up is you don't start with confidence either. You start with a commitment. You lean into that commitment and you have courage show up for you and you take action. And as you build capability, you then build your confidence. So you're asking where confidence fits in, and I would say it fits in right here. So I'm drawing a red line on the slide. That's where confidence would likely fit in, is you are building a capability, and as you build it, you feel confident. From that feeling of confidence, you're probably also enjoying it. And so sometimes they can happen together with enjoyment, but it gives you an idea of how confidence can fit in. So if you are building that business and you're wanting to believe it will be successful, it's really a choice that you're going to figure it out no matter what. You're going to build the capability to figure it out. You don't need a plan A, B, C, D. You just need to commit to the idea that no matter what, even if you don't know how to do it now, you will figure it out. There is a way. You can figure out what that way is. You have the ability, you have the skills. As you think that, you start taking action, you start doing things. You might not know what the right next step is, because there really is no right, but as you're trying things out, you're stumbling, you're failing, you're succeeding, you're creating that path as you go. And you're doing that and you're keeping the momentum because of the belief that you will figure it out. Even if you don't know how to do it yet, you're going to keep moving until it happens. So that's how you can use the idea of confidence along with this idea of where your passion fits in. Both confidence and passion happen after capability. All right. Okay. We have a couple more minutes here. I will be here for any questions that come up. And as a reminder, you can sign up for that mini session here. Also, if any of you are in the San Diego area, let me know, because I am doing a live workshop on self-confidence and would love to have you there. That's also free, so it's a great opportunity where we dive in more about self-confidence. So it should be a lot of fun. Okay. All right, so I don't see any other questions coming in. So again, I just want to say thank you so much for your time here. You don't have to find your passion. You can create it, and you create it as you're taking actions, as you go. You can choose what you want to pursue and move forward that way. Please sign up for a mini session. It's an opportunity to take the skills and the materials we've covered today and really apply it to your specific situation. I'd love to help you through it. You can do that by going to www.lisaphilia.com/schedule. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your night.